Chapter 25. The natural lactation, from 2.5 to 3 years. If a woman lives in chastity, and on a natural diet during gestation and lactation, she, like all female animals who live in this way, will be able to nurse her young until their teeth have developed sufficiently to enable them to partake of their natural food. In the human being this normally occurs at 2.5 years of age, until which time it should be fed on nothing but mother's milk. The giving out of the maternal milk supply at the end of 9 months is an unnatural condition resulting from improper diet and incontinence during pregnancy and the nursing period. The conception of another child before the natural weaning of the last one, which should take place as it approaches its 3rd year, is harmful to the mother, the infant and the embryo. The mammary glands extract the most vital elements from the blood, thus starving the unborn child, while the enlarged blood supply to the uterus interferes with mammary secretion. Therefore, there must be no sex relationships for 3 years after childbirth, during which time mother and infant should live apart from the father. Allowing a period of rest after lactation, and one of preparation before conception, there is a minimum period of 5 years between the successive births of children by the same parents. The sex act, among married people, should therefore not occur more frequently than once in 5 years, and then only for the purpose of conception. Observation will readily convince one that children who have had the advantage of being nursed throughout the period fixed by nature, from 2.5 to 3 years, are superior to those whose lactation has been cut short at the end of 9 months or before. The writer knows 3 sisters, all women of exceptional health, and mothers of gifted children, who were nursed by their mother, an Austrian peasant woman, until they were 3 years old. Another woman who lived on a vegetarian diet nursed her child for 2 years, after which she raised it on a diet of raw vegetables, fruits and nuts, giving it no form of grain. The child, now 5 years old, is declared by educators to be physically and mentally supernormal. Dr. Terman, the psychologist, after a recent survey of 1,000 gifted children in the state of California, has come to the conclusion that superior mentality goes hand in hand with superior physical health, that the child of high intelligence has become what it is as a result of better prenatal and postnatal conditions, and that a greater number of supernormal children have been nursed by their mothers, and for longer periods, than those of mediocre intelligence. The cow is a stupid animal, with small brain capacity, and its milk is deficient in elements required for the adequate nourishment of the infant's growing brain. Therefore, a baby fed on cow's milk has a starving brain, its physical growth is overstimulated, but its mental growth is retarded. Mother's milk, since it is secreted from an organism with a higher brain capacity, whose blood contains elements required for the nourishment of parts of the brain which are undeveloped in the cow, properly nourishes the infant's brain, and, therefore, children who are nursed by their mothers develop superior intelligence than those that are bottle-fed. The prophet Samuel, like Mary, was nursed by his mother until his 3rd year. Hannah gave her son suck until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. Since her husband had another younger wife, Hannah, like the mother of Mary, lived in chastity during gestation and lactation. It is a well-known fact that sexual intercourse during lactation induces premature menstruation, vitiates the quality and reduces the quality of the milk, and brings nursing to a sudden close. This results from the escape of genital fluid, which is otherwise lymphatically absorbed and carried by the blood to the mammary glands, stimulating their secretion. Genital fluid is very rich in phosphorus, the element required to build brain tissue, and a loss of it reduces the phosphorus content of the milk, retarding the brain development of the child. The milk of the unchaste mother, like that of the cow, is deficient in elements required to build a superior brain. This is so because of her loss of seminal fluid, by orgasms and by leukorrhea, and because of the resulting menstrual discharges. The dependence of the mammary glands upon this internally absorbed sex fluid is evident at puberty, when, due to an increased secretion and absorption of the latter, there is a rapid growth of the breasts, as well as of the brain and the entire body. Girls who masturbate, who are subject to losses, genital fluid, possess flat breasts. Menstruation is accompanied by the loss of this vital fluid. Hence, with its cessation after conception, the mammary glands commence to enlarge. As soon as menstruation begins again, determined by when sexual intercourse occurs, towards the end of lactation, which now takes place prematurely, the mammary glands diminish in size, lose their vital power and are unable to secrete good milk. Intercourse during lactation may lead to the poisoning of the infant by the lymphatically absorbed male seminal fluid, particularly if the father smokes or drinks. This male fluid, transmitted to the child through the milk, has the tendency to implant morbid sex impulses within it. Sex perverts and prostitutes are created in this way, as also through intercourse during gestation. It is a remarkable fact that the newborn of all other forms of life seem to have superior intelligence and ability than has the human infant, who, because of its larger brain capacity, should, however, surpass them. This is due to the fact that the infant's brain cells have been paralyzed by its mother's unnatural diet and unchastity during gestation and lactation. There is no reason why, at birth, the cells of the brain should not be as fully active and coordinated as the cells of any other organ, such as the heart. Through hygienic and continent living, a mother may endow her child with a brain all of whose cells are functioning at birth. It has been estimated that most children are born with brains 4/5 of those cells are permanently dormant, having been impoverished, poisoned or paralyzed. This paralysis of the infant's brain cells results in its typical stupidity as compared to newborn animals whose mothers live on natural food and in chastity during gestation and lactation. Though it is universal, this condition is not natural. Children born from mothers who lived in chastity and on a vegetarian diet throughout their lives, as those of Krishna and Jesus, were reported to have displayed adult intelligence not long after their birth. This was due to the fact that their brains were nourished by sufficient maternal genital secretions, transmitted before birth through the blood, and after birth through the milk. The growth of the infant's brain depends upon the concentration of genital secretions present in its blood, coming from either its mother's or its own sex glands. This is illustrated by the following case of a child who had 3 sex glands, and therefore a greater amount of these secretions in its blood. At 9 years of age this child possessed a fine beard and mustache, and had all the appearance of a young man of 20. Short of figure, but very robust, he had strongly developed muscles and gave the impression of a vigorous man. His intelligence was equally far above that of an individual of his age. The parents, alarmed by the unusual aspect of their child, had the hypertrophied interstitial gland removed. Some months after the operation the beard fell out, the lad's muscles diminished in size, and, which is still more significant, his intellectual development underwent a regression which brought the child back to a state corresponding with this age. We have in this case an excellent demonstration that the orchidic glands not only hold under their domination the factors connected with sex, but that they certainly act as a general stimulant of our physical and intellectual energy. Dr. Voronoff, from whose book, The Conquest of Life, the above is quoted, contemplates the creation of a race of supermen by grafting sex glands into the bodies of gifted children. This suggestion is absurd, for if the child is supplied with sufficient genital secretions from the much larger sex glands of its mother, by her chaste living previous to conception, during gestation and during lactation, these same effects may be produced by healthy and natural means.